I give the call to the member for Warringah.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister, COP27 is currently bringing together world leaders to address climate change. The planet has already warmed by 1.2 degrees, with escalating climate-induced disasters and cost-crippling communities. Yet current pledges, including your government's inadequate 43% by 2030, have us on track for 3 degrees of warming. Will your government stop making the problem worse by funding and approving further fossil fuel projects?
Give the call to the Prime Minister.
I thank the member for her question and for her genuine engagement on the issue of climate change since she has arrived in this parliament as the member for Warringah. As the member pointed out, though, in the preamble to her question, she spoke about what was happening at COP27 and spoke about the global effort, because indeed climate change does require a global effort. And one of the things that has occurred already at COP27 is that the previous chair of COP, the person who chaired the Glasgow conference and was the minister for the Conference of the Parties as part of the UK Conservative government, has welcomed Australia back as part of the global effort, as have all of the delegates, as occurred at NATO, as did Prime Minister Johnson, Prime Minister Truss, President Biden, Prime Minister Kishida, Prime Minister Modi. The fact is that Australia has been welcomed back due to the fact that we changed, as one of our first acts, our nationally determined contribution to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. And we did that with the commitment that we took to the election of 43% by 2030 reduction as part of our commitment to have a pathway to net zero by 2050. Australia has fallen behind where we should be because we've had a decade of denial, a decade of delay. We didn't have any climate policy, and reluctantly, when the former government adopted not really a target because they weren't prepared to legislate it, net zero by 2050, there was no policy to go with it. This government understands that we need to deal with energy policy, transport policy, housing policy. We need to make homes more efficient. We need to change the makeup of our transport network in accordance with what's happening around the world, and we need to move to the cheapest and cleanest form of new energy, which is renewables. We need to do that in partnership as well with the rest of the world. And I look forward to, in coming days, meeting with global leaders, talking about how we cooperate. I know that when I've spoken in recent days in the lead-up to the G20 with people like Prime Minister Sunak of the UK, but also in the past few days with the leaders of Vietnam, Thailand, other nations in our region, the first thing that they raise is climate change. And I am optimistic. I am optimistic that the world can move. I want Australia to be a part of that, and my government's commitment is to do just that.
Member for Griffith will see